Hello and welcome to our wellness video podcast. This is Yani, your host in this product training series sponsored by the cellular nutrition company USANA. Today, we're taking a deep dive on bone and joint health. Your life is not meant to be lived sitting on the sidelines, right? So, what can you do to preserve the health of your joints? How can you take a proactive approach? What ingredients research has shown to support this purpose? Well, we've invited a member of our product and research team, and he's a member of the Ask the Scientist team as well, with a background in biology and a passion for science education. He's currently working on groundbreaking research behind the scenes, and that's all we can share for now, by the way. And I'm so excited to introduce to all of you Devin Martinez. Welcome, Devin.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to get into this topic and, yeah, talk about how we can support the health of our bones and joints.
That's
Um,
fantastic. Thank you for being with us and feel free. Let's take it away.
okay, awesome. Well, so in order for us to talk about how to support the health of our bones and joints, we have to understand what they are and how they actually work. So really quick, we're going to go into just a brief overview of the anatomy and physiology of our bones and joints. And then we'll jump into the nutrition and some of the research. So let's start with our bones. Let's talk about our bones first. So bones are a major part of your skeleton. They give your body structure and they literally hold you up and protect your internal organs. Bone is made of a special connective tissue fortified with calcium. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a second. And bones contain bone marrow, which is actually where your red blood cells are produced in the body. Your bones also store crucial minerals that your body needs to support a variety of physiological processes. A full-grown adult has over 200 bones in their body. This includes bones of the skull, arms, legs, the vertebra or spine, and your ribs. But can anyone guess how many bones infants have? Feel free to drop a guess in the chat. Adults have 206 bones, so, would you think that infants have less than that or maybe more than that? I'll give you all a few seconds to think that over for a sec. So infants are born with 270 bones. They actually have more bones than a full-grown adult. And that might be surprising, but yeah, they're born with more bones than adults because many of these bones actually fuse together through the course of infant development. For example, if you're familiar with the soft spots on a baby's head, those are called fontanelles. And these are spaces between the bones of the skull that haven't quite fused together yet. But throughout the course of the baby's development, they will fuse together and form one whole bone of the skull. So bones are pretty amazing, clearly. Let's talk a little bit more about how these bones grow and reshape themselves in this way. So clearly, your bones aren't like static structures. They're not just rigid, structures in your skeleton. In fact, your bones are constantly regenerating themselves. Your entire skeleton actually completely replaces itself every several years. When you're younger, it will replace itself every 2 years, that fast. And as you age, the process will slow down a little bit to about every 12 years or so. But so your entire skeleton, regenerating itself at that rate. Pretty amazing. This process is called bone remodeling or bone mineralization, and it's facilitated by two specialized cells in the body, and these are your osteoblasts and your osteoclasts. Your osteoblasts are responsible for building or reshaping bone. They are these little cube-shaped cells that stack on top of each other, and they release a protein collagen mixture called osteoid. And when osteoid binds to calcium, it solidifies and becomes hard bone. Osteoclasts are the opposite of osteoblasts. They break down bone. But this kind of bone breakdown isn't a bad thing. Um, it's part of the normal and healthy process of bone remodeling. Osteoclasts, as they do their work, they make room in the bone for things like muscles and blood vessels. But they also just make room for new and healthier bone cells to replace old, weak, or damaged bone. And this process keeps bone strong and resistant to mechanical stress. As you can see in the slide here, osteoclasts are a little bit larger cells, and they're outlined with a ruffled border that helps them grip the exterior of the bone. And your osteoblasts are these small cube-shaped cells. So this process is constantly happening, this process of bone remodeling, where parts of your bone are being broken down and other parts are being rebuilt. And this process of bone remodeling is directly related to your bone density, because when this process is out of balance, your bones can't regenerate the way that they need to, and they'll become weaker and less dense over time. Like we mentioned earlier, calcium is required for solidifying new bone tissue. That means that your bones end up becoming a really rich reservoir of calcium in the body. And the thing is that calcium is required for a whole spectrum of other functions in the body. It's not just needed for bone mineralization. Calcium is involved in nerve function, muscle contraction, heart rhythm regulation, blood clotting, enzyme function. All of these functions are vital for life. So if your calcium levels are ever lacking in the body, your body has to pull from your bones, has to pull that calcium out of your bones to keep these vital functions going and essentially keep you alive. So all of these things will directly relate to your bone density. And then another part of bone density is just the way that our bone mass changes as we age. So typically we reach peak bone mass around early adulthood. So the idea here is that you want to do everything that you can throughout your early and late 20s to really build and develop as strong of bones as possible. And then beyond that, you want to do everything you can to preserve and maintain what you have. But the reality is that your bone mass will begin to gradually decrease after the age of about 30 or so. And women after menopause, especially, will begin to lose bone mass a little more rapidly. Okay, so that's a brief overview of bones in the body. Let's talk a little bit about our joints now. Joints are strong connections that join bones together to allow the body to move. And there are a few different kinds of joints throughout the body. First, we have fibrous joints. Now, these joints are fixed and mostly immovable. Due to their fixed position, they can often fuse together over time. Going back to that example of babies and their fontanelles in the skull, those bones in the skull are joined together by a kind of fibrous joint called a suture. Cartilaginous joints are another type of joint in the body, and this kind of joint allows for limited movement. So an example of a cartilaginous joint is the pubic symphysis, for example. The pubic symphysis is what connects the left and right pubic bones to stabilize the pelvis. But when a woman gives birth, for example, this joint is designed to permit enough movement to widen the pelvis for delivery. So that's a really good example of a cartilaginous joint. There are also cartilaginous joints between every vertebra in your spine. And lastly, we have synovial joints. Synovial joints allow for the most movement, and they're unique in a lot of ways. They're the only type of joint that has a narrow space between your bones called the joint cavity. And these spaces are filled with synovial fluid, and that fluid lubricates the joint, provides nutrients to the cartilage in the joint, and it also acts like a shock absorber and a cushion to the joints as well. The entire synovial joint is enclosed in a capsule made of connective tissue that keeps the joint stable. And these are really dynamic and complex joints that we'll dive into a little bit more. This is a really good example of a synovial joint, your knee. The main synovial joints in the body are the knee, the hip, the elbow, and the shoulder. But they all have these similar kind of characteristics. They're very powerful. They allow for a lot of dynamic movement. But because of all of that, they do need a lot of help to stay in place and to manage the different forces that are placed on them. So there are tissues in your body that do just that. These tissues secure bone to bone and bone to muscle. They're called your ligaments and your tendons. Tendons attach muscle to bone, and they also protect the joints that they surround, and ligaments connect bone to bone. Generally, the stronger the ligaments are surrounding a joint, the more stable that joint is, which can help prevent injury to the joint overall. So, for example, there are ligaments in the hinge joints in your fingers and in your knees, and these ligaments strengthen those joints because they prevent the dangerous, like backward or awkward movement of like the fingers or like the hyperextension of the knee. These ligaments will protect the joint from those things. And so that's why, if we're looking at this slide here, that's why it's such a serious injury in like sports or athletics. If you've ever heard of an athlete, football player, basketball player, damaging their MCL or their ACL. These are key ligaments in the knee and in some of these key synovial joints that if they're injured, it can really be a huge issue. Your joint just cannot perform the same if you don't have, an MCL that is healthy and strong. So yeah, some really important stuff there. Yeah, overall, over time, ligaments can decrease in strength and elasticity. So it's really important to keep moving your joints and to maintain your flexibility in order to support their long-term health. Okay, let's talk about cartilage. Cartilage is another really important aspect of all of your joints. Cartilage is a strong and flexible connective tissue that protects both your joints and your bones. It acts as a shock absorber throughout the body, really. And cartilage, in particular, at the end of your bones, reduces friction and prevents the bones from rubbing together when you use your joint. But when cartilage deteriorates, it can cause joint discomfort because of this friction that arises. So here's an example of this. We've talked about the joint space in a synovial joint. So here on the left, that's a really good example. It's an X-ray image of the knee. You can see that really healthy and normal joint space here. There's cartilage in there. There's synovial fluid in there. But here on the right, you can see that as the cartilage is starting to deteriorate, you can see where that friction would really start to cause some joint discomfort. Here's another example with the knee and the kneecap here. You can see that joint space narrowing and the friction arising from cartilage deterioration again. So cartilage is really such an important aspect, and supporting the health of your cartilage is a really important aspect of joint and bone health overall. So joint discomfort is really common. It really does. It affects millions of people. And that's because there are a variety of risk factors that can contribute to it. Advancing age is, unfortunately, definitely going to be a factor in that. Being overweight or obese will put a little more pressure and force on your joints. Experiencing a joint injury at some point in your life, if you played football in high school and had an MCL injury or some kind of tear in a ligament or something like that. These things can and tend to have certain long-term impacts. Repetitive or overuse of a joint, we've all heard of like tennis elbow, things like that, from just using a joint in a very specific way over and over again. Weak muscles surrounding a joint. So beyond just the ligaments and tendons in a joint, often the muscles in the bones and areas surrounding that joint can really help to stabilize that joint and kind of balance out the force that the joint takes on. So if you have, injured muscles or, underdeveloped or atrophied muscles in some of those areas, that can leave your joints a little bit more vulnerable. And of course, genetics. Genetics will affect every, part of your health and life in different ways. And of course, dietary factors can contribute to this as well. We can't stop the aging process. We can't change our genetics, but you can absolutely control your diet and nutrition. And the good news here is that diet and nutrition can really be a powerful weapon to support the health of your joints and bones. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. These are some of the key nutrients that research has shown are directly involved in supporting the health of your bones and your joints. And we'll dive into each of these a little bit more specifically in the context of the products that they're found in at USANA. So starting with Magna-Cal D, this is our comprehensive bone health supplement. And basically, overall calcium consumption is still falling a bit short of optimal dietary amounts. The majority of people are still falling significantly far below adequate intakes of magnesium and vitamin D as well. So that's why the focus of this product is these three nutrients here in particular. But then beyond just their basic benefits for the bones, what they do in the body and that kind of thing, it's also important to keep in mind the relationships between these nutrients. And that's kind of some of the thinking and that goes into how these products are formulated as well. For example, vitamin D is essential for your body to absorb calcium. If you're taking a bunch of calcium, but you're deficient in vitamin D, you actually won't be able to absorb the calcium that you're consuming. So really important to keep some of those things in mind. Magnesium is also a cofactor that helps the body use vitamin D. So these relationships between these nutrients are really crucial in the thinking and the formulation of these products here. So okay, yeah. So on top of those main ingredients of Magna-Cal D also includes a little bit of silicon, which is important for bone health, and some boron as well. Boron has been shown to play a role in bone maintenance as well by reducing the loss of calcium and increasing the deposition of calcium in the bones. So really cool product here for bone support. Okay, so yeah, Magna-Cal D is the bone health and bone support supplement. Precosa is the joint support complex. And Precosa is this really unique blend of these few key ingredients. It focuses a lot on, joint support and support of cartilage in particular. When we think about cartilage and really look into what cartilage is a complex matrix of collagen and protein fibers interwoven together by what's called proteoglycan molecules. So these proteoglycan molecules are really key in weaving and binding together this interconnected matrix that is your cartilage. So glucosamine is a key aspect of this product because it specifically promotes the higher production levels of proteoglycan molecules. So that's a really key aspect of having healthy cartilage. Vitamin C is included because it's an essential cofactor in the biosynthesis of collagen, which is a key component of cartilage and of this interwoven matrix that we're talking about here. Manganese is included as well. Manganese activated enzymes are required in the synthesis of proteoglycan molecules. So again, going back to the proteoglycan molecules are really a key part of being able to support your cartilage and the function of your cartilage overall. And then curcumin, derived from turmeric, has a variety of health benefits, but one of them is really specifically supporting joint comfort and joint function. So curcumin is included here as well. But a couple of these ingredients are a little bit unique to USANA in the way that we use them and formulate them in this product in particular. So really quick, just to mention those, glucosamine typically is derived from shellfish, but a lot of people sometimes have shellfish allergies can be common, and people on vegetarian diets wouldn't necessarily be able to consume a glucosamine that is coming from shellfish. So USANA's Procosa provides glucosamine in a completely vegetarian form. So it's kind of a cool aspect of this product here. And anyone, it's a little more inclusive. A lot more people should be able to take Procosa without any concern. The curcumin as well is a little bit interesting because curcumin, it's great for the joints. But the problem with curcumin is that it's actually not very well absorbed by the body. You typically have to take really high amounts to get the benefits that you're looking for. But USANA's curcumin uses a curcumin Mariva complex. It's a unique phytosome technology that really increases the bioavailability of curcumin in this product and in this context. We actually did some research behind this specific Mariva curcumin complex, and we were able to demonstrate the massive increase in bioavailability when curcumin is taken in this specific complex with this specific phytosome technology. So here's a little bit of information on that. Okay, so that's a little bit about Procosa and Magna Cal D. Thank you all so much. Yeah, really hope you try out these products, give them a shot. Also, really recommend everyone check out the Ask the Scientist website and read a little bit more about these products, get a little bit more familiar with them, and yeah, continue talking about them and helping others support the health of their joints and bones. Thank you so much.
That was great. Thank you, Devin, for this valuable info. And I want to ask the audience, who do you know who might be interested in bone and joint health? And truly encourage everyone to share this valuable info with runners, cyclists, personal trainers. And by the way, anyone who has bones, anyone who has joints, anyone who has, right, Devin? This is for everyone. So I want to quickly have a quick contest and give away one free product to support the joint health for the first one of you guys who will answer the following questions. And I know we have people connected from our broadcast live in the community page, so I'll be looking at both chats. And the question is the following: what key nutrients support joint health? Okay, what key nutrients support joint health? The first one to answer will get a free product. Not everyone at once. Okay, we have Janet. Janet, you are the winner. Fabulous. Janet, please send me your info so I can ship that product over to you. Now everyone is answering. I love it. Fantastic. I love it. They were paying attention, Devin. That's great. All right. So in closing, truly, we want to tell you, audience, no matter the game plan you have for your life, maintaining an active, independent lifestyle is the way to thrive. So this training has been recorded. We will share it in our community page. We thank you, all of you guys, for viewing and listening, and stay tuned for our upcoming product training series. Details coming soon. Thank you, Devin. Thank you to our audience. Until the next time.